Hello, welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloincgamers.com. I am your host, Flux, and I'm joined on the show tonight by Katniss
Aloha.
and by Neinball and a Panda King.
Guten Tag.
And we were hopefully going to have Centaurus on the show last week, and a few people, well, I think 2 weeks ago, and a few people were bitching about his voice in the comments, and I find that kind of uncool. It's not like we're not radio personnel here. This is not radio training school. We're just fans who like talking about the game and stuff. And I was going to have him on again tonight just to make everyone angry who didn't like his voice, but unfortunately he's busy flying across the country in a private jet and supermodels, so he wasn't available tonight to come speak with us lessers.
Word up.
Luckily, we have both Neinball and Katniss, both of whom have baritone of such melodious qualities that panties are known to dissolve at their mere oral something something. So that should go over pretty well.
Yes.
Also, I think it's a general rule of thumb that when you see someone online complaining about X, another person, don't you just assume it's projection always?
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming anybody who says, "Oh, that guy on the podcast, his voice sucks," I'm assuming he sounds like Mickey Mouse after that time that Goofy kicked him in the nuts, and he's like, "Yeah, your voice sucks. I don't like you very much," or something to that effect. And then Gooby's like, "Gooby," and he kicked him in the balls again. So
Gooby, please.
obviously you guys are, we're accessible to comments, and if you don't like the topics on the show or whatever, you can go F off. I mean, you can make a comment about that. But, if someone's voice is not cool, that's kind of not, if someone's voice sucks and they're on TV, okay, sure, they're on TV, but, whatever. I mean, then again, this is an audio medium, so that was my opening topic, and it went nowhere. So, we are going to talk about Diablo 3 version 2 stuff lately, and Paragon levels, and leveling up, and gear, new legendary items. The auction house is closing very shortly, and also getting ready for Reaper of Souls, Crusader stuff, and also Diablo 3 ladder hint tease from Joshy Washi, because he's an evil man.
Very
But first of all, yes, and very short. But first of all, we are going to go just what's been going on lately in Diablo 3 version 2. It's been a couple of weeks, and I hope you guys have both been getting some testing time in. Why don't you start us off, Katniss? What have you been playing? How do you like it? Is it wonderful, etc.?
Oh dear God, I haven't been able to stop. It's almost been a detriment to the other things that I have to do in life these days. But yeah, I've been loving it. I started out again on my monk actually in softcore right when the patch dropped. I just wanted to see what the new items were going to be like and see if I could scare up any of those legendaries with the suite of fixes and all that good stuff. But
Had you been on the PTR any, or that was your first try?
yeah, I did the PTR, just leveling up a Demon Hunter from 1 to 60 to see what the experience would be like. And then I played it very infrequently as they made changes with the patches and things like that. But I never.
So really, when the version 2 hit, that was really your start, and you went with the monk.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that was when I gave it the gusto.
And how long did it take you to realize the monk has been nerfed as a useless character now?
Dude, the monk's in a good place, man. I had one friend complaining about how none of his builds worked anymore. His monk was useless. He was gonna vendor all his gear, and I was like, dude, you gotta adjust. Like dashing strike is amazing now.
Yeah,
And,
that was just like one of the problems with the monk is they only had you had the Tempest Rush build, but then you had just the cookie cutter, and then towards the end the Nirvana, and no one actually broke out of that mold,
Right. But yeah, I liked it. And then I actually, the weekend before the patch, because obviously the patch came as a surprise to most of us, the weekend before I was playing my hardcore Demon Hunter, and she died chasing a treasure goblin in Act 3. And so I was like, screw it, it's, new patch. They're giving us an EXP bonus, I might as well raise up my new Demon Hunter. And I've been addicted to that. Found a couple of cool bows along the way, and so I've just been doing that hardcore.
Literally or figuratively, or both?
Both.
Yep.
Hardcore Demon Hunter, doing work.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you been up to in D3 version 2, Nineball?
I guess I had played my monk primarily beforehand, so I went and was messing around with her on hardcore for a little bit. Then I played through with all the characters, because you could put like an hour into them and double their gear. But I found myself really liking the Demon Hunter, and there was a bunch of different builds that were available to her. So I went through and just I've been sticking with her ever since then. I've been also farming alongside Katniss. We've been doing a bunch of key farming this past 2 weeks on our Demon Hunters.
Well, it's gonna be a boring podcast. I've been playing Demon Hunter too, so
Yes,
pretty monotopical here.
Master race.
the Brotherhood of Hunters.
So how many times have you watched Underworld in the last week to get a lyrical inspiration for your build and
I
your class and your style
I put it
and your
on.
hairstyle?
I put it on every time that I get ready to play.
That's just the parts where Kate Beckinsale's leather-clad ass walks past on the screen, or the rest of it too.
Oh, I just hit play and let it go.
Yeah,
Keep it on
well,
repeat.
that's my excuse too. So, do you have a Beckinsale item? What are those? I think those are boots, right? Or is it a
It's a
cape? I
cape.
forget.
It's a cape. It's cape.
Are you wearing it?
I am not.
If you wear it backwards, it's like the real thing.
I don't think I've ever
So
found
nobody.
one.
Yeah, I have the three wolf night cape, and it makes me happy.
Nice.
It's
Lucky.
fun just let them eat it. Just to let them eat Tetra goblins because you have three wolves and they're all hitting pretty good, and they just chase him. You feel like it's the opening reel of Oh Brother Wherefore Art Thou, and you're just watching them chase a convict down. Except the convicts drop gold and treasure, and sometimes green plans you can sell in the auction house.
That's the George Clooney movie, right?
Yeah, when he sings.
Nice.
Well, he lip syncs anyway. And they're escaped convicts and there's dogs chasing him and stuff. That was the whole
Oh yeah,
analogy. Thanks for
it's
thanks for catching that one.
sorry. It's based on what, the Odyssey or Ulysses, something like that. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
or no, I forget one of those old fables. But anyway, so not to get totally into Demon Hunter stuff, we're gonna talk about items as well in a minute. But so have you guys been appreciating the new loot? I mean, obviously that's kind of the first thing you notice is legendary items that do cool stuff. You mentioned you had some cool bows. My Demon Hunter, I have a really nice critter shot on my main Demon Hunter on US, which
Oh,
gives you the hatred,
Ugh.
the elemental arrow that does. Elemental arrow is a hatred generator, so it's just lightning orbs for everyone.
speaking of
Lightning orbs for you. Lightning orbs for you.
speaking of generating hatred, I am totally jealous.
And you haven't found one
Well
yet?
played.
Not yet.
So I had a 60 Demon Hunter that I played a little bit. I played a lot of Demon Hunter in the Reaper of Souls beta, so I was really into the build. Unfortunately, the most fun skill in the world is Vengeance, and you don't get that till 61, so you can't use it in Diablo 3 now. So I just sort of have this blank space in my heart, waiting for my sixth skill slot when I finally get to level to 661 and I can finally add Vengeance back in, like in the beta, like as it's meant to be. But of course, in the meantime, you can put Smokescreen there and not die horribly, like my first Demon Hunter did after one day. And then I started another one and leveled up to 60 really quickly and was zooming along, found a couple of good items, but couldn't find a critter shot. I had that in the beta and loved it, and I couldn't find it. And then that one had horrible luck and died by smashy guys who got me arcane waller smashy dudes around the corner, and I was unable to escape even though I had full resources and everything because I didn't have smokescreen on my build and I couldn't vault past the wallers and I was just stuck like a dog.
Hmm.
So I made a third demon hunter and leveled her up really quickly. Leveling up is fun and easy now, and she hit 60 in Act 2. I did what's his face Act 2 boss at 59 and got a friend to also give me a portal to Asmodan so I could also get him at 59 to get the other bonus, to get the bonus act drop.
Mhm.
And literally in that same game, I went down to the area at Crater, and I was just leveling. I was just pounding stuff a little bit there using a crappy old Calamity I had, and they critter shot with a socket dropped for me there, so that made me happy.
Ugh,
So I've been using that ever since.
I hate you so much.
And you guys, and also other legendaries I have a really cool belt that casts haunt whenever you open a chest or click a body or anything, and it shoots up to 5 haunts out. That's really nice. I mean, obviously it's a demon hunt, it's a witch doctor skill, but basically that cleans out every trash mob in sight when you hit that. And I also have the 3 wolf cloak, which is fun to watch them chew stuff up. And nothing, and oh, and I have quivers that I have the one quiver that gives you explosive bolas instantaneously, so
Oh,
you can just spam bolas.
yeah.
And I've also got the one that boosts Hungering Arrow to like 25% more piercing damage on it, so
Mhm.
you can kind of play around with those. So what are you guys doing with your builds and your special legendaries, Katniss, and how does it make it wonderful?
Yeah, so I mean, like again, I've been playing a ton, so I've been stocking up on a bunch of these new legendaries. And I actually last weekend I was doing key farming in Act One, and I came across one game I came across Danetta's Revenge, which is one of the set hand crossbows. Just flipping a body and it popped up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Then literally the next game I killed the key warden, and Danetta's Spite, the other one in the set, fell from him. Obviously no key because keys are impossible to get. But I was like, dude, this is insane. So I put Volt on my bar, and it's awesome. It's a great initiation skill because now Danetta's Revenge gives it the rattling roll rune. So that's one that stuns stuff. So you can just roll right through them and stun them.
And the other crossbow leaves a duplicate of yourself behind,
Exactly, yeah. So
and both of them makes it cost 8 hatred instead of discipline.
you got it. So
So you can just vault forever.
Hmm.
forever.
Vault for days.
Which Neinball hates when we play together because I just vault all over the place like an idiot.
Not fair.
Yeah, Demon Hunters almost aren't. It's almost bad in multiplayer because you're just so much faster, and you're just like, it's some poor plotting barbarian or something behind you.
Right. Uh,
It's like, yeah, I'll save you. You can pick up the gold when you get there, you know.
but it's only fair now because they used to leave us behind with their stupid whirlwind and sprint build all day.
Yes, of course. Wait for the Crusaders with their poor, pathetic 15% speed detriment when they're two-handed weapon passive. They're so slow.
They
Saddest class ever,
should.
unless they're on the
I was
horse.
gonna say, I should get them a horse or something.
Well, the horse is only what 3 seconds out of every 15 or whatever. So then the rest of the time you're just incredibly slow.
Oh,
But do you have any exciting legendaries that make you happy, Nineball?
Not really. I haven't come across anything too special. I have right now the belt that when you have a chance of on attacking that it blinds and confuses the enemies, and it's a pretty decent radius. It's huge. It's like almost the entire screen when that thing procs.
It casts like a nova-shaped round thing, and anything in it gets stunned. And
Yeah, and
I had that in the beta on my monk, and it was okay. It casts it from the target you hit, and then I put it on
yep,
my demon hunt, and it casts it from the target you hit. So it can cast this thing way off in the distance, and I guess that's probably what you're using it with.
exactly. And other
I
than
actually thought
that,
it was better on the demon hunter than the monk.
yeah, because if it procs when you first hit the enemies, they're stunned there for a couple seconds, and they don't actually have a chance to get up to you. Other than that, I found a couple items with cold damage, so I've been using Elemental Arrow, Frost Arrow, and the rest of the legendaries that I found, they're not anything too special. They're just pumped up stats. Like I have the what's her name, Natalia's hand crossbow. I've been waiting to try and get some more pieces of that set. Other than that, oh, and of course I got my first ring in hardcore, my Hellfire Ring. Finally got one of those right before it becomes useless.
Yeah, I wonder why you guys were farming keys now. It's like, well, what's the point? Because they're so much better in Reaper of Souls. But obviously, you can stick it on your Merc or something and nothing else.
Yeah, and also surprisingly, it's a decent amount of experience just going through and doing that. Not only farming keys, but like the Uber bosses themselves gained like almost 2 levels doing, I want to say, like 4 sets of bosses on Torment 3.
Yeah, the experience gain is crazy now. I mean, we saw that was patched in pretty late in the Reaper of Souls beta. We had that time where you gain like half a level in a month, and it was like, this is horrible. I'm going to be level 147 forever or whatever. And then they suddenly patched it with like 3 weeks to go, and you could gain like 3 Paragon levels per game all of a sudden. And that's basically what we still have. What Paragon levels are you guys, and how much have you gone up in the last week and a half or so, Katniss?
Yeah, I started out well, I had two Paragon 100s before the patch hit on softcore, so when I ported over to that, I think it was 170, and then that got up to 183 before I made the switch over to hardcore. And I was doing self-found hardcore, so obviously I was plodding along pretty slowly. And I think it was like Paragon 40 when I started that up, and now I'm Paragon 103, so I've been grinding.
So 63 levels in 2 weeks or so there.
Yeah.
Let that be a lesson to the rest of you. So how was your progress, Nineball?
For me, let's see, going into it, I was level 48 on hardcore, and I am now 83. So not quite as significant as his XP gains, but I do hopefully try within this next week get to Paragon 100.
Yeah, I was Paragon 17 when it started. I'm now Paragon 844, so I've been getting a few hours in. Actually, not quite that much. Yeah, I was. They teach the Paragon levels a lot. I was like Paragon 130 in softcore in the beta, and when D3 went live, I was Paragon 105 in softcore. I'm like, that's it. That's odd. And I had actually gone from 130 to over 200 in the beta, just playing my Demon Hunter so much on Torment and the Reaper of Souls, which was just zooming up levels there.
Mm.
But in hardcore, I was, I think, 147 or something. I think I'm like about 180 right now on US. So it's just really easy to gain, as you guys have seen. I've also been playing on Europe some. Once we have our Inc. HC guilds, I'm the leader of the clan on Europe as well, and I figured it seemed wrong to be the leader of it when I had like a level 12 softcore witch doctor was my only character on the realm.
Uh-huh.
So of course demon hunters are awesome now. So I started a fresh demon hunter on Europe, and I had never played any hardcore there. So I mean I had nothing. I had to buy stash tabs and everything, right? I mean it was literally my first character on that server, and it's amazingly easy to level up now and to gain the characters. Now I'm up to now. She didn't die, so I got to 60, right? And I was like, I should just stop now. This can only go downhill from here.
Right.
It's my first hardcore on Europe. I got to level 60. Just quit. Quit while you're ahead. Just walk away. Leave that fat tank of gas and walk away. But I did not. And now I'm up to Paragon 40, so it's going pretty well. But still kind of crappy gear. But it's really interesting when you get there. Obviously, I had 0 gold. All the gold I've made has been selling materials. I found a couple of nice plans and sold. I found a Kane's plan and sold it for about 4.5 million there. Of course, ironically, that plan was like 47 million on US. I sold that a few days ago on my US hardcore as well. I'm like, why wasn't this 11 times more on US than Europe?
That's
But
so weird.
Hmm.
yeah, there's some weird inconsistencies. I just last night, literally on Europe, found legendary pants, Gehennas or something like that, and the estimated was 13 million. So I actually haven't logged on today to see, but hopefully that's sold. I was at 2 million on Europe, so that would be taking from 2 to 14 or 15 million would be a nice boost.
7 times as much.
Yeah, I was up to 4 million briefly and bought stuff. It's really interesting though. I was really curious to play. Obviously, I'm the head of the clan. There's 147 people or something in the clan, so I could just like extort favors if I wanted,
Hmm.
like a pretty girl at the prom. But I've been totally doing it self-found because I have social anxiety and can't talk to other people. I mean, wait, because
Aw.
I was just curious, what is it like to level up in Loot 2.0? With 0 resources, 0 twinks, anything,
Hmm.
and it's really easy. I mean, I got to 60 easily. I was doing hard. I did hard all the way through. I was higher than hard for a while. Bought a few weapons. I finally, but of course, I didn't have any gold, so I couldn't spend much on weapons. But even then, you just self-find so much. If you guys have leveled new characters, you've seen it's just you don't even need to. In the old days, in the auction house, in D3 vanilla, if you're doing a new hardcore character, like every 10 or 15 levels, you would just stop and go and buy like 7 items in the auction house and
Hey,
sell whatever you've been using.
yeah, exactly. You just go there, you spend about 200,000, you gain 5,000 hit points, a couple thousand DPS, and you're good to go. And you sell all of your gear that you were using previously for the same amount, if not more, that you just spent.
You just rent gear for 10 levels
Hmm.
basically,
Bunch
and
of
that's
dirty auction
you don't.
house users.
I just don't do that anymore. You just don't need to. I mean, I bought a couple of bows with to get something with a socket in it, but of course I'm using like half my gold available to buy. It was like 27K for a flawless square ruby at the time. Like, God, what are these prices on gems now? They're killing me. I don't have any gold here. And
Yeah.
so I mean, that helps a little bit, obviously, but you really don't need to. I mean, you find so many uniques leveling up and legendaries and good rares. I just didn't have the need to buy stuff anymore the way you felt it in the past, anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been leveling up a barbarian here in the patch, and I've had a pretty decent stash of gear that I've used to level tunes, and I've not needed any of it at all. Uh,
Or you find better stuff than what your twinks were, is what I've had.
Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, it's
I just
like
ended up throwing away a bunch of twinks. I'm like, okay, I found much better than this at level 37. Who needs this?
Yeah, I cleared out a lot of stash space for that exact same reason. You really don't need to hold on to stuff anymore.
It was nice
yeah.
to have like an old Kane set. I could get that on at 33, I think it is, and just immediately get the EXP boost. But you level up
23.
so fast. Yeah, 20 is correct. I mean, and it's just you don't. I mean, because the scaling monster levels too. I mean, you're like level 37 and you're in Act One. It's like, hey, I win. It used to be you get to like 15 quickly, and then you just gain like 2 more levels in the last 2/3 of the act, and it was like, oh god, this sucks. Get me to Act Two. Can I get a portal to Act Three so I can just get some monster density here?
Right.
And that's just not the case anymore. It's just because we're all pathetic fanboys, and we've sold out and gotten our checks from Josh, so we're just sucking up. But it's
Oh,
really not a bad thing, especially with Paragon levels as well. Obviously, I didn't have that on Europe. I had 0 Paragon levels, but if you have 100 or so, just getting faster movement speed and IAS right at the start is just so nice. You feel so plodding normally, and instead you've got 12% movement speed just from your Paragon points. It's like, hey, I'm fast. It's fun. Zoom, zoom.
yeah, it's like a decent amount of paragons, and you're pretty much it's like you don't even need gear for your first 20 levels.
So speaking of gear, one thing I was just wondering, I was looking back at some of the other stuff that we talked about before Loot 2.0. There were all these, what are we going to do with this new system? How are smart drops going to work? How is this working out? One thing, remember when they first showed us the red, green, up, down thing for gear comparisons? People were like, "Oh, that's Care Bear. We don't need that." I like to look at my numbers. Do you totally love that now, or is it just me? I'm so lazy about gear now. Like if it's not green, I just throw it away. I don't want to have to look at numbers and think about it. If it's green, then you look at it obviously and compare the details. But having to scan the fine print on every single rare as opposed to just glancing at the red and green and just saying click, click, click.
Well, I agree and I disagree at the same time because the one thing that I don't like in terms of toughness now is that, yeah, if you look at it and it's green, it's an upgrade in quotes, but if you're losing some all res but you're gaining vitality,
Or plus defense.
right, or yeah, some armor or something like that, it's going to tell you it's a net gain, but you kind of still need a baseline level of certain amount of all resistance, a certain amount of vitality, so that you can actually take the hits. You can have 100,000 HP and great toughness, but if you can't take a hit and you lose like 50,000 of that, per hit, it kind of is meaningless. So I think that one stat is kind of I don't like the way that they changed it, but I do agree the green numbers makes it kind of mindless when you're analyzing all those rares.
Yeah, you got to look at the fine print if it's actually close. But I mean, usually it's just it's minus 17.6% or something, and you're like salvage, salvage, salvage.
Very true.
But I can recall when they first announced that, I was like, oh, I don't want that. I like to look at numbers. I don't need this Care Bear bullshit. And of course now I'm totally Twinkle Toes and Star Bear and giving me hugs makes me happy.
Yeah, well,
you were saying Neinball?
yeah. I've run into that exact situation that Katniss was going and mentioning. Is that I've gotten my toughness up to like 1.8 million, but I've noticed that I actually have less survivability than when I was at like 1.2, because it's all from hit points and life percentage, and my resists have dropped by like 150 or so I can't actually sustain as well as I used to be able to.
Yeah, so why are you guys doing key runs? I mean, why people are there's a lot of debate in the clan chat. People are trying to push up in the torment levels. I've been totally lazy in this one. All I'm doing is grinding for experience. I'm gonna go into torments when we get Reaper of Souls, and there's actually a reason to, when you could find the special torment only gear, which was kind of all I spent the whole beta searching for, and there's really cool stuff. But currently, the only benefit to torment is that you get a little more experience and there's a better chance of dying. And if you're playing hardcore, what's the point? I'm just sort of treading water and grinding EXP until the beta, until the Reaper of Souls comes out. You guys have been going up and doing key runs and stuff and being brave. Do you find a benefit to that, or do you just have massive EPs?
Well, you can go ahead, Neinball.
Oh, for me, it was just I wanted to at least get one done before Reaper. I wanted to say that I at least managed to get it completed. And then from there, it's just other people were interested in still completing theirs, so it's going through and helping out at this point.
Yeah.
You're just so powerful, you kind of carry the weaker characters through the game. That's nice of you.
Oh.
Magnanimous.
All that panda power.
Oh yeah, channeling the panda power.
There it is.
And have you died horribly because of your powers, or are you still working? It's working out okay for you.
So far, it's been working out okay.
And is Katniss heavy, or are you used to carrying him by now?
He's freaking always vaulting so far ahead that I had to go in and save his ass every once in a while.
Yeah, that figures. So why are you tormenting Katniss? Are you playing mostly torment, or are you just being lazy and doing hard runs?
Mostly torment. And yeah, for the key runs, like this whole weekend actually, I've just been doing this Act 4 route that we've been testing, because that key warden drops all the keys and he's pretty easy to get to. I don't know. It's for me, and I was just having a discussion with Waterfiend about finding stuff right now versus 1 week from now and how it's all going to be useless, blah blah blah. But I don't know. I just like having goals when I'm playing the game. So like if I log in and I'm saying, all right, I want to make 3 machines by the end of tonight, that kind of helps me focus on where I'm going to be versus like, okay, I'm just going to do a playthrough, or I'm just going to grind this one specific spot of Act 3 for experience. Like there's no end point to the experience, so it doesn't feel like there's a goal there. Versus like, I want to make a ring. I know what I need to do to make that.
Yeah.
And you don't have bounties yet. Obviously, Reaper of Souls, that was one of the nice things about it. That was what I really noticed going back into D3 version 2. Is just it just feels kind of aimless. I mean, obviously it is aimless. You're just sort of wandering around the axe killing stuff. Whereas after Reaper of Souls, like I used to doing bounty runs, and you were like, okay, I'm going to this spot to kill this monster, and I've got to kill 75 or 100 monsters in this level, and then I move on.
Precisely.
And now it's just like you just kind of do stuff until you do something else now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It does seem like you're kind of running around with a chicken without your head cut off. Like I want to kill this, I want to kill this, but no real reason or why of it.
Yeah, for me, when I'm not actually going through and doing key runs, I mean, it's like, what act do I want to farm today? And then I'll just hit all quests and join a public game and see, just for what people are doing, or find someone on my friends list that's doing something, just because it's like, well, I can farm anywhere, and there's no like specific advantage really to going any other place than another.
You're a demon hunter though, right?
Yeah.
So that means Act 2 is out. Or are you not a fear? There's been lots of complaints about instant death. My first demon hunter, my 60 who started off in D3, died instantaneously to the key wardens reflecting bullets from off the screen, actually, off the visible screen even. And they have since patched that a bit. Have you tested that? And is it still instant death for rapid fire?
Well, I was never using rapid fire. I farmed the key warden probably a good like 30-40 kills solo on my demon hunter.
It's
And that was
definitely
before the patch recently or long ago?
Oh, this is just after the patch.
Well, see, now it's safe, but I mean...
Oh, no, this was
safer
immediately after the patch.
after version 3 went live. Version 2.
Yeah, after version 2, that first week.
Well, the benefit of not using rapid fire is otherwise you'd be dead 50 times over by now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I was just using because I had come across the cold element items, shortly after playing. That's what had me going through and using the elemental frost arrow. It was using the Crusader with the stun skill and a butcher's sickle. Pretty much keeps him perma-stunned, and every time he gets stunned, I just run in, shoot a couple shots, then run back out, wait for him to finish the spin, run back in, do a couple shots, right next to him, so that way it doesn't get held, and just was smart about it. Took it slow once I found him.
You said Crusader, you mean Templar, I
Yeah,
take it?
Templar. Sorry.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Katniss?
I forget.
Okay, good point. So, yeah, I was wondering why you guys were doing Act 4 key runs, because most people have a billion Act 1 keys from back in the old days, and then very many fewer of Act 2 and Act 3. And if you do the Act 4 guy, he can drop whichever key randomly. But if you already got, way more Act 1 keys than you'll ever use, you would just want to do Act 2 and Act 3, but Act 2 is dangerous for Demon Hunters, unless you're Neinball, because he's hardcore.
Yeah, no, it is a good way to generate the Act 2 keys. And then actually, for a while, people were saying, like, oh, Act 2's bugged, like, the key warden never drops the keys. And it seems like the Act 4 key warden has a very... I'm almost wondering if it's, like, a smart loot drop system for the keys, because it seems like I'll get a key of destruction, a key of terror, and I'm like, oh, man, here we go. I'm never going to get the key of hate. And then surely the next one that drops is a key of hate. I'm like, oh, cool, I can make a machine now.
Yeah, I was getting a fair amount of keys across the board, but I know at least when we were doing that last night, I had a lot more than a 25% drop chance for Torment 1. I think I was getting like one every other run.
That was insane.
Yeah, we did maybe
if
like
you could,
12 total runs, and I got 7 keys.
if you could sell or buy keys in the auction house, what would they go for?
Oh, now I bet they'd be millions. So it's a lot harder to get them now.
Even more than white
It's
materials
a
would
lot
sell
harder
for?
to get them, but not as many people are going after it. Kind of like what Flux said. I think most people would be kind of like Flux's mentality of let me farm Paragon levels, and I don't give a shit about anything else.
I've got 15 machines in my stash right now, by the way. I really should use some of those for the damn game ends, shouldn't I?
Let's run them
Let's
tonight.
go.
Man.
Let's do it after this podcast.
I think I have
Let's go and do
I
some
have
moving.
15 machines and 12 Act 1 keys sitting there, I think, from months ago. I haven't done any since.
Jesus. Yeah, let's use those up.
Use them up on your... Yeah, we could do 15 of those. You might get one machine total.
Seriously.
I also have like 5... I have like 5 or 6 Hellfire Rings just sitting in my stash, too, but I'm a bad person. I just put them on Mercs. Mercs and level up with them.
Oh,
But it's fun for later.
one thing I did want to mention too is that yeah, so obviously going after the keys, like it's only a temporary thing. The rings will be not as good when you get the level 70 version. But right now the key wardens seem to be a good source of legendaries too, just because they drop a few more items regularly than, an elite fight or a treasure chest or whatever. So if you farm them enough, it kind of becomes a loot run too. You get a little bit of legendaries and a key every now and again too.
Odag is really squirmy, though. He doesn't hold still anymore.
Dude, they boosted his runaway speed or something. He's all over the place.
Oh yeah,
He's a little more lively.
And he just doesn't stop moving. Is the thing. He used to like at least take a break every once in a while, but now it's like he just runs and guns the entire time.
It's almost like he wants to live. So the other thing that's been going on interesting is economy stuff. We've seen some really interesting... I was talking to Azur about this, who's retired from Diablo 3 and just spends his time wasting money and losing money on bitcoins, basically. And he has a real life, too, apparently. He lives in Australia, so he's probably out surfing or something. But, okay, no, he's a total geek. He would never do that. But anyway, we get this weird multiple things. Obviously, the version 2 came out, and which changed a lot of stuff. All the legendaries are now a bind on equip or bind on pickup. I mean, bind on anything, bind on an account. You can't trade them. You can't sell them. You can't give them away unless it's someone who's in your game right then. So I guess you guys are trading legendaries constantly. Of course, you're both playing Demon Hunters, so why would you bother, right? It's the same thing for each of you. But I've been thinking I should play with someone else. I wanted to play a little bit of Monk or a Barbarian, but you just never find any gear that's not for the class you're playing anymore with Smart Drop. Even a Monk from a Demon Hunter, you can find some armor or something, but mainly you just find lots and lots of crossbows and cloaks. It's like, yeah, not for you, sorry. But monks are ruined anyway unless you're Katniss. He claims to have a secret pattern that still works.
The secret monk. I got the build.
Yes. I haven't been playing mine. He feels so slow now. It makes me unhappy. Monk's my main forever, and I'm just not even bothering anymore. Maybe Reaper of Souls will make it happier again. But so, also, of course, the auction house is shutting down. Like, what is it, Tuesday, I think it's shutting down, or is it Monday?
Tuesday?
This Tuesday at, I think, like 3 or 4 a.m.
Yeah, we're recording this Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, so it's very soon. There will be no more auction house, and I've been selling like mad, dealing gems and selling plans and stuff, and people have been really cashing out. And there's really been some interesting shifts. Obviously, diamonds just came into the auction house in the last patch, along with commas, oddly enough. I made the comparison in a news post, but it's like a little kid on spring break or summer vacation. You do nothing for 3 months, and then it's like August 17th, and school's starting in 4 days. It's like I want to do everything now, and you're like running around doing all this last minute activities. So the auction house, we get nothing for 2 years, and then commas come in, all these bug fixes and Mac bug fixes came in, and diamonds get added. It's like, yeah, great. Now we have a week to go, and now you finally get this crap working. No white materials though. At last, I would love to sell some white materials. I have huge stacks, and people are all out who've been crafting a lot. But that's obviously come in and changed the values, and of course, Reaper of Souls is coming, so people are gearing up for that in the future. There's been these wild price swings and speculations. We had the whole thing where fiery brimstones were like 20k in hardcore, and then version 3 came out, version 2 patch came out, and you could suddenly basically dupe them by making some of the lower quality crafting items, and then salvaging would give you a free fiery brimstone. And so the prices for those plummeted to like 3k or 4k a piece, and then they patched that in 2.03, and suddenly they shot back up to 95k immediately. So have you guys been riding the economic fluctuations and enriching yourselves, or are you just leveling and gearing up? I said you said you weren't doing any of that, Katniss. You're just gearing. You're self-found.
Yeah,
You're a purist.
yeah. The dirty AH, I've washed my hands of it long, long ago. Although I guess I should say that I saw all the hubbub that you wrote up on the gems, and so I went back onto my softcore account and just sold every single flawless square gem that I had, just because I felt like whatever, might as well sell them while I
And
got 'em.
Topaz went up like 10 times in value too. Topaz is certainly really sought after in softcore.
And that was the one that I like. Probably shouldn't say this, but I kind of hate the intelligence classes. I never really play them just to get to 60, and that was it. So I had like 700 of those laying around because I just never use them.
And they were like 20 gold before the patch, and suddenly they were like 45k.
Unreal. But that's
How about
been
you,
that's been my
Neinball?
extent.
Have you been cashing in?
Yeah, I've been cashing in to a certain extent. I've been trying to, empty my stash of a lot of the twink gear, which is now useless and obviously isn't selling all that well.
Yeah, I'll see. Is anyone buying it?
Some of the pieces, some pieces, people are still buying, especially the minus level reduction.
Yeah.
Those still are sold relatively quickly. And then other than that, yeah, it's just dropping all of my enchanting mats to anyone that will, still buy them for whatever price.
Yeah, right when Reaper of Souls beta got going, like in November or something, or October, whenever that was, I sold like everything. I'm like, okay, this is obviously the wave of the future. All this gear is going to be useless. I sold like everything my characters are wearing, all my good stuff, especially all my gems. I was assuming gems are going to be worthless once the game gets closer because marquees drop in Reaper of Souls,
Mm-hmm.
and so every current gem will have like 100 gold value. I wasn't quite correct on that, as it turns out. They've all gone up in by price 10 times for some bizarre reason.
I think that
But
that's just kind of because there have been more people coming back and playing, so there's more of a demand for it.
yeah, people have been crafting like mad because crafting recipes got much better in version 2.
Mm.
So, and you actually find them now.
Right.
So, I mean, I've made a lot of gold selling crafting recipes. I made, I think, 46k for a Cane's recipe just a few days ago on Hardcore US. I'm almost back to a billion. I was down to like 300 million many months ago when I wasn't playing, when I was playing in the beta. And I sold all my crap, and I got to like 500 million. And then just since it's come back, you can make so much money selling stuff. I know people who've been really buying and selling and trying to flip stuff and just making fortunes. I haven't even been trying that much, but just selling all the gems you find, selling all the materials you find if you're not using them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how much money you can make so quickly. And of course, it's all going to go away. And I was looking last night, and also I've been looking at the auction house a lot on Europe because I have nothing on my character, and it's really hard to find certain gear, my brand new European hardcore stuff. And finally, I got to like 3 million gold from selling a couple of crafting materials and plans. And I went and spent like 1.5 million each on gloves and a ring, and both of which were like 14% damage increase because you just cannot find. You find so many rings, but you just can't even get a one fecta, much as a trifecta. It's just, especially you find these legendary rings, and it's like, oh, legendary ring, shiny orange, and like every one of them is main stat, vit, regen, health, and like resol. And it's like, I would like damage, please.
So
Yeah.
true.
Can I have the ring? Can I have the ring with damage now? So it's really hard to get your damage up. That's one thing I've really noticed. The auction house is nice for those, and for gloves too. I mean, you find tons of yellow gloves, but it's just so hard to get ones. They all have like IAS, nothing else. And just to get CC and CD on a glove, it's nice to get the auction house for that. And of course, with enchanting and Reaper of Souls, you can make all these things wonderful, but we don't have that yet. But I just was all this doing boosting up the stuff and the gear. The one thing I was looking at was some of the really high end stuff, and I'm wondering, what are people going to do who have these items that they're listed for 500 million or a billion gold? What are they going to do this weekend? Because once the beta comes, that stuff's going to be useless. Once Reaper of Souls starts, right? Do they drop the price like 90% discount and just hope to sell it on Sunday night? Or I mean, you've got a bunch of those items up Nine Ball. You've got your trifecta Nats rings and stuff. What are you going to do with those?
Yeah, all of them.
You've
For
been
me,
getting 3 and 4 billion for them. Are you going to drop the price to try to get rid of them?
I'm not sure. I probably will just fire sell it, and just try and get rid of as much of it as I possibly can. Throw up everything, for that last 24 hours, and then, disenchant it when it doesn't sell.
Yes, you're lying. So what are you going to do, Katniss?
Keep playing the game.
Yeah, you don't actually play the auction
Yeah,
house.
no, I don't know. I've been talking to friends who are like legitimately concerned that they have all this stuff they've been sitting on, all these little nest eggs, and I think what happened is that the people who are already well geared, they've just started saving all their gold for Reaper of Souls because they realize gold is just going to be that much harder to come by, and enchanting is going to cost a bunch.
Yeah, that'll
So
be that'll be me in hardcore. I've got a billion gold and I'm spending nothing. I'm just playing with cell phones, and who cares? I'll find better stuff in a week anyway.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What are you gonna do?
I'm sitting on my gold and waiting. I sold everything good 6 months ago. I wish I hadn't, because there's lots of things that have gone up in value a lot. But some things, I mean, you can find. I mean, it used to be like you'd have, I don't know, like Inya's pants or something was a popular item, and it had 2 sockets and it usually had decks. Well, it always had decks, and like a really good one would have either Resol or some Vitality on it. And now you can't take a step. You can't swing a dead cat without finding a legendary, finding a rare or legendary pants that have like 300 vit and decks and often 2 sockets.
Hmm.
And you don't get the IS that the India's pants had, but it's so easy to get so much more toughness and vits. I mean, it used to be like if you'd have like 80 or 70 or 110 or something vit on a good item in legendary and in hardcore, it was like a billion gold. And now that's just almost free. So it's weird how some things that used to be really valuable are just you can easily obtain them with rares now.
Hmm.
But then there's our things like trifectas and big damage stuff. It's still really hard to get. And of course, all the new legendaries can't be sold. So all the legendaries in the auction house are the old ones. Usually are much worse, but a few things like I don't know, like Mimpos are so much better because they have 6 primary stats, whereas the new Mimpos only have 4 primary stats.
Right. And something like that's still going to be useful too, because it doesn't necessarily need an enchant, since a lot of the old or all of the
And it
old
can't get an enchant.
exactly. So that's kind of the point, right? So like all those old legendaries that are up there, people don't want them anyways because they can't enchant them come ROS. So like it's only a very, very limited amount of things that are still useful, really.
Yeah.
Have you guys been selling any stuff? I've sold a few. I sold a hat for about 15 million actually. I found a rare helm that had like 300 main stat, 300 vit, socket, and like 5.5 crit. And that sold for 15 million. And God knows what the market was because it's so hard to search because you search it and every existing helm has got 110 stat and your has 314. It's like you're so far above the comps, it's hard to even figure what you would compare it to.
Right.
Hmm.
But there are occasional, I will see some of the new rares, and you can just tell them because they have much higher stat values that are selling for a ton. And because you don't have money and you don't practice commerce, Katniss, you don't have any opinion on this. But
I got nothing.
what have you been doing? What are you gearing up with Nine Ball? I mean, you used the auction house in the old days. Are you just self finding now since the version 2 came out?
Oh yeah, as far as the gear that I'm using, I'm not buying anything from the auction house myself. Just saving up as much money as I possibly can for Reaper, and just using it exclusively for selling.
Are you tempted to look the last day and see if someone's dumping 6% CC Mimpos for 50 million or something? You might grab one, or you're like, no, it's Reaper Souls. Who cares?
The thought had crossed my mind, but I mean, I probably wouldn't spend anything more than 1 million on anything if I were to buy it. So.
Because you don't have more than 1 million. Because you're poor. Your family's poor, Kenny. You're poor. No, you're probably not that poor. You can make that much just selling the diamonds you pick up for half an hour.
Yeah, they sell ridiculously well.
Yes, I'm really curious. I mean, I'm not gonna have that much time this week. I've been so busy with other stuff, and I'm gonna be out of town next weekend. So I'm trying to catch up and getting wiki updates and stuff going. I haven't been able to play as much as I would like to, but I'm really curious to look what's gonna go on in like the last 6 hours of the auction house. I mean, we're just gonna see people just dumping stuff, or suddenly price is gonna go tenfold. Because I mean, I guess you can still trade and you can still exchange gold and stuff and gems,
Well, you
but
can exchange gold.
Not, I thought they made it so you could now. No,
No,
still can't.
no, you can't. The only way of actually giving gold to another person is via the auction house right now.
So what happens the last week of version 2 when no one can sell anything? Are we gonna be trading gems like
Want to
savages?
sell, looking for.
Oh Jesus! Is that gonna be the entire clan chat?
Wug, 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 wug.
LF diamonds have rubies. God, I have to ban everybody. To ban and mute the entire clan.
Let the hammer fall.
Yes, that's going to be interesting to see how that changes. And then, of course, in Reaper of Souls, we don't know if they're going to still have every. I mean, everything was bound in the beta. I mean, gems, all the crafting plans, all
Yep.
the legendaries. Maybe that'll change. Do you guys feel the auction house needs to shut down? I mean, I guess you're going to say yes, Katniss, because you're a primitive and you only traded in chickens.
Yes, you know what? I think that once it's gone, people who used it like extensively, a ton, will definitely miss it. We
What?
don't have any of those people here, though,
Why
right?
are my ears burning?
You'll miss it for a bit, but I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like a relic of the game. Like if they're going to be people probably purchasing ROS, and it's going to be their experience with Diablo 3 for the most part, because maybe they were the ones that quit from the get-go, or they're just picking it up to pick it up. But they're not going to have that same frame of reference. And I think the game, it's kind of like the lesser of two evils, if you will. Like, sure, people are going to be upset. There's one less way to gear up your character, one less sort of freedom of how you can play the game. But I think for the overall health of the game and longevity too, it'll be better than what we have or what we had.
Okay, so the question to you, Nineball, what happened in the beta? You played the beta. I had most people that I knew in the beta had hundreds of every gem just stacked up and tons of crafting materials. And if you ran out of gold, you could never get back ahead, and you just had all these gems you could never afford to upgrade. You had all these crafting materials you couldn't afford to craft, and you had no gold because all you could do is pick it up off the ground. And I would have loved if I'd been able to sell, hey, I have 500, amethysts I'm not using, 500 marquee amethysts. Just sell these to someone for 20 million gold, and now I can actually afford to do some crafting. And that was never an option. Do you think that you'll miss that in Reaper of Souls? And do you think the auction house is a problem the way it is now with all the new gear? All the best stuff you find now is buying on accounts. You can't sell it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see why, having, all the smart drop system and the improved loot drops was necessarily, couldn't work with an auction house or some other form of trading. So I still would like to see, I'd prefer to see some form of trading still in the game as opposed to it not being there. So the fact that they're really stamping out everything by making it so you can't trade gold and you can't trade even crafting materials, I think is probably a little bit overkill. It doesn't need to be shut down that much because that's like, they looked at, well, what could gold farmers sell if we did this? Well, what could they still do if we did that? And they just kind of like went through the list to try and take out every single possible thing that could be sold or traded, as a proxy for gold.
But you,
I like how the auction house works now. I mean, maybe you can. Obviously, you sold some gems, Katniss, so you can't trade the best gear. You can only trade rares. So it's like the highest quality stuff. You have to find it yourself. You can trade sort of the secondary, the mid-level stuff can be traded, and it facilitates a nice commerce of I have materials I don't need or can spare. You have gold. We can make a deal with each other. Obviously, you sold some stuff. You said you sold some materials and gems, Katniss. Would you like that to continue in River of Souls, or you want it to be 100% everything is self-found?
I want it to be 100% self-found. And really, the only reason I sold it was more out of curiosity than anything. I would have held on to them if I honestly just didn't read that article or didn't think about it. But I don't.
So it's my fault.
It is your fault. I'm blaming you. I think that.
So you should probably give me that gold, all that gold you
I,
sold for it, 'cause you don't really feel like you deserve it.
well, yeah, I can trade it to you, right?
Not anymore, no.
Well, you just put up the broken sash up in the
Yeah,
auction house
you
for
list a
50.
cracked sash for 100 million,
Yeah, and then there you go.
I'll go find it.
and Bobby gets his 15%
But no,
and another gold-plated toilet.
the point I wanted to make though was one, obviously, yes, they're combating the gold farmers and the third party site traders and all that good stuff. But also
Yeah.
there is this idea of like me giving you an item kind of ruins your progression curve. Like if I come in and I have this Mempo that's super awesome and you have a rare helm that, you're still trying to find that first legendary item for that slot, Well, now you're not searching for anything anymore. So when you log in, like that's already one thing that's off of your checklist of things you want to find that night. And I don't, to me, like I've never liked I mean, I like the ethos of it, like the community shares with each other. I give you this, you give me that. But I also like the idea of like, it's my progression. Like I can feel very proud of my Demon Hunter because I found all this stuff. And I still have a list of things that I want to get in the future.
And you're happy having 417 flawless topaz you'll never ever use for anything.
But then maybe I roll a wizard someday.
I have to say that I have never heard anyone ever say anything about that or messing up personal progression by trading items until 4 months ago. It's never been a problem ever before. And then now everyone that prefers to self-found or to defend the BoA argument is going through and bringing up that argument. And it's like, back in D2 and someone would trade me something awesome, I never thought that. I was never like, oh, well, that screws up my personal progression and I'll never find an upgraded helm and it, degrades from my own experience. That never came across. No one ever said anything about that. No one ever complained about that. And yet now it's one of the major talking points. And it's like, that's just because it helps build up your argument, but there's no substance to that. So I don't like that argument whatsoever.
You don't buy it?
No, I don't buy it at all.
I mean, think about it though. Wasn't the auction house essentially that? The auction house was your friend being there with like, dude, I got 80 million items that are all better than stuff that you have right now. Spend your money. And obviously the friend is like, I'll give it to you for free. The auction house is a more stingy friend saying, spend your money, give it to me, and I'm gonna give you all this gear. And then you go into the forums like, dude, I haven't found an upgrade in a year. Why?
That was a very different economy, though,
Yeah.
when nothing good ever dropped. Now that you can actually self-find, and I think it works nicely where the best gear is bind on equip. I always liked the idea of self-finding bonuses. Like once you sold something, it would lose quality, or else it would gain quality if you'd found it yourself.
Mhm.
And as Wyatt pointed out when I mentioned that to him, he probably said that's just too complicated. It would confuse people. So maybe the whole binding of just all legendaries is better. But I really think just the free flow of commodities. I mean, it's so easy to. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that was the whole thing in Reaper of Souls beta. Is just once you got broke, you could never gain money because you always had more expenses than you could pick up with gold or get from quests. And yet you had hundreds and hundreds of gems and materials. Maybe you weren't using them, and I would have loved to be able to sell some of those to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And there's some things are limited. If gems are BOA and you have to actually find them, then it's kind of like demonic essences are now. You can have 10 trillion gold, and you can't do any more crafting for legendaries than the demonic essences you have because you can't trade those. So at least there's something that does require you to play, but at least you can sell your brimstones and make some profit if you don't need them.
I mean, you can also sell those items to the vendor.
Oh yeah, 47 gold.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That,
Get yourself a new tattoo.
that was actually something that we had brought up on a podcast, many months ago, and was brought up, even before we found out that everything was going to be BOA, is that when you're self-found, the biggest limiter is already gold. It wasn't demonic essences, it wasn't the gems or anything like that. Is you would never find enough gold in order to support yourself with upgrading gems or crafting gear or anything like that. That was your biggest thing, and it still kind of is because now you have no other way of making gold besides just going through and playing. And so it kind of
And
gets you into
there's
that.
other I mean, like white materials are a big bottleneck now. I was talking to Zappa fan, who's like a billionaire in the game,
Mhm.
and he's our big barbarian player. I did an interview with him recently,
Yeah.
and he's been doing all of his item runs lately just based on where he finds more weapon and armor racks, because he's been doing tons of crafting, and you can't trade for white materials in the auction house, and you can't sell white materials in the white items in the auction house. Although you can trade them individually if you can find people in trading channels. But he's been basically his whole limiting in the game is how many useless items he can find to turn into materials to craft stuff with. So it's a weird sort of incentive, where he has all this gold, but it doesn't do him any good for this one instance.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of cool. That kind of those weird sort of loopholes and things that make you have to actually play the game somewhat. I don't want a system where you can just write a check and just buy everything.
Mhm.
I don't want Mitt Romney making Diablo 3. I like you have to find stuff and earn your own way. But you just don't want this world where every single thing. But some things, if it's gems or demonic essences or forgotten souls and Reaper of Souls, whatever the case, legendary materials and Reaper of Souls, you had to, incredibly hard to farm those things for specific items you wanted to craft. But it seems like if there's zero commerce at all, then you just have these huge inefficiencies, and people are broke and have 500 diamonds they can't afford to upgrade and want to sell them, etc. But I think I've said that 7 times now. So
So it sounds
okay,
like for all the hate that you usually bestow upon WoW, it sounds like you want their auction house.
I don't even play WoW, so I know nothing about it. I know there's pandas in the game. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Yep.
Although not for long. Now they're going to go to hell or something. So new topic: pools of radiance. Are they awesome or what? I was noticing the weird thing. If you once you're over like Paragon 120, especially in hardcore, where if you die, you've got more things to worry about than resetting your pools of radiance.
Hmm.
You just sort of immediately get to like 8 or 10 stacks of them, and you never use them up because that's like 4 levels up, and that's a long time to level up that many levels. My Paragon, I was Paragon 147 or so in hardcore to start with Reaper of Soul, to start D3 version 2. And I'm now Paragon 180 or so, and I have like 3 levels of stacked, and I will never ever use them up unless I just do Mira Eamon runs for 6 hours one day. But playing my new character on hardcore on Europe, I've never had more than like half a level of Pool of Radiance. It's always gone because you level up so fast.
Hmm.
And since both you guys are kind of noobs and you have low level characters, that's probably the same thing you're happy seeing too, right?
If,
Katniss like F you, dude.
right, leveling up, yeah, no, you're right. Like a pool of radiance, or what is it, pool of reflection, leveling up like is worth nothing. But it actually creates this weird dichotomy where like if you're doing just like the Act 4 Key Warden runs, that zone doesn't have a lot of pools of reflection. So you eventually use it all up, use the whole bonus, and then you run out. But then if you go back and you do like a playthrough, you reset your quests and do a playthrough or something, you're probably going to pick up 4 or 5 or 6 because you hit so many different zones. So you almost end up with like a pool of reflection run. Like you want to go through, get a whole bunch, and then you go back to doing like your single zone farming or something like that. It's kind of cool.
What Paragon are you, you said? Like 100?
Yeah, 103.
So you're probably getting to the point where they don't run out immediately, and you can kind of they give you like 40% of a level of experience basically.
Yep.
So obviously, if you need a lot more experience for your levels at higher levels, then it lasts longer. But I mean, when you give you one of those at like level 27, it's gone in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's almost gone by the time you finish. By the time you get the taste of the yellow water out of your mouth, you need another one.
Hmm.
And so you said you're not that high of a Paragon 9, but you're probably still I've gotten to like, I think I just got to Paragon 40 on Europe, and they're still gone instantly. I mean I've got like 2 occasionally in the same cave, but then you go out and clear half the fields of misery and they're all gone.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm going through and just doing farming instead of like targeted runs, like with the when I was doing the Act 2 key runs, I was just booking through everything and skipping all the mobs except for elites and the key warden, and I would get quite a few stacks of the pools of reflection because they had a decent spawn chance in the Oasis. But just going through and farming, they go through relatively quickly because even just like sitting down and playing for 2 hours will net you like 4 levels. So it's really hard to keep it going there. But as you were saying, since it's the 50 or 40% of your current level of experience that you get as a bonus, once you're up to like Paragon 200, 300, 400 plus, you're going to be sitting at like 10 stacks permanently.
Of course, that's hardcore. If you're softcore, they go away when you die.
Yeah.
So I was mostly playing softcore
Well,
in the beta.
they go away
and
when you die on hardcore too.
Yeah, but you have other things to worry about at that point. It's funny. There's multiple death cheating passives, but I think all of those actually keep you from dying. There are items that if you die, it resurrects you. Some of the new legendaries. So in theory, in hardcore, you could die and be resurrected by one of your items, right? And then that you would actually lose your pools of radiance. Although again, you'd have other things to worry about at that point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think you'd probably be pretty okay with losing your pool of reflection because it's like, yeah, well, I'm not dead at least, so I can probably overlook that.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't. I mean, I was doing a lot of Torment 2 and Torment 3 in the beta with my Demon Hunter because she was like, a tiny god. And I would have 6 or 7 of those things stacked up, and I would die on T3 to some boss. I'd be like, oh, crap, that's obviously, experience didn't really matter in the beta because it was just pretend. But I can imagine people in softcore are really, if it actually does matter. I mean, you're playing along and you're like, that does give you some incentive not to die. We always used to talk about wanting survival bonuses in Diablo 3. Maybe not death penalties, but something that you would, a benefit to not dying to make people play a little better. And I'm wondering if Pools of Radiance are working as that for softcore.
I do know that some of my friends that still play softcore, that it does.
Can you really call them friends if they're only softcore?
Well, shh, we won't say that.
People you know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Acquaintances. Uh, it does change the way that they play. If they go through, if it's just one pool of reflection, it doesn't really matter. But if they find, say, like 2 or 3, and they have, like over 100 million experience saved up in the pool reservoir, let's call it, they'll drop their difficulty. They'll go from Torment 3 down to Torment 2 or Torment 1. They'll change a passive, so that way they have a little bit more survivability and a little bit less DPS. And I think I've seen it referred to as like it is a mini hardcore experience because you actually have this benefit to staying alive, and so it's something that you actually consider instead of just running and gunning and I died, who cares. I was actually talking with Katniss about this last week. Like one of my thoughts on it is with the pool of reflection. It's kind of like the old Diablo 2 system where you actually had a penalty for dying. When back then you would die and you would lose XP, though you would never lose a level. And I guess to kind of understand what I mean by that is in World of Warcraft, when they were originally developing the game, they'd had it where if you played for a certain number of hours or you gained a certain amount of experience, you would get a penalty associated to your character. So that way you stopped gaining as much XP. But people didn't like it. They didn't like being penalized for playing longer. So they flipped it. They just made it to where when you log off, you start gaining a buff that doubles the amount of experience that you gain. And so that way you would quickly go through that as you played, and it gave you the same experience. You would get double the amount of experience, and then afterwards you'd just get normal experience. And you would see it as a buff instead of getting a penalty after you played for so long. And it's more or less the same way now. You get a buff for going through and staying alive, and when you die you just lose the buff instead of actually being docked experience, because it can be really bad. If you have 10 stacks, you're going to be throwing away hundreds of millions of XP for dying. So I mean, and you don't think of that as being all that bad because you're not losing what you've gained, you're just losing a buff, but it's the same thing. You're actually losing that all of that experience when you die.
And that's why they called it World of Warcraft. It'll be interesting. They had to put penalties in it so you wouldn't play it as much. I remember those days.
It's crazy.
I do wonder if we'll see this. Maybe I'll get some softcore people on the next podcast and just see if that's actually making a difference once people really realize the benefits of pools of reflection. If that will actually start changing behavior, or if people will just be like, well, screw it, what the hell? Because I mean, the joke you hear people, kind of the common way of playing in softcore is you go to a difficulty level where you're not dying absolutely constantly, and then you stay there. But if you're actually losing that much experience for losing your pool of reflection constantly, maybe that will actually change some of the behavior, and maybe they can start playing hardcore and grow up here. Wait,
Yeah,
what?
There it is.
I mean, it's definitely kind of like one of those things. It's like this is kind of what it's like playing hardcore. Only just when you die, you lose everything.
Remember when every video
steps,
game?
baby steps.
Remember when it mattered if you died in video games? Okay, that's too long ago. Like Pac-Man, you would just get harder and harder, and then you would die and have to quit. Not in the current state of affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 other topics we need to zip through here in the last few minutes. Reaper, Diablo 3 ladder stuff. We got that hint from Josh. He put up a twit pic of them all standing around look like they were in the back section of a Costco, actually, a bunch of ladders, and they're like, ladders, fun to climb on. And they've kind of been teasing us forever, saying there's going to be ladders in Diablo 3 maybe someday. What are we going to do with them? And when they first announced the Paragon system, that was when we were hearing about ladders as well, and people were like, well, we need ladders to make it a clean experience with a new character because Paragon will make it so easy. And I don't really feel that way anymore because Paragon is obviously very beneficial, but it's nothing like what it would be. I guess if you had like 800 Paragon points, it could actually kind of make the game too easy in some ways, and you would want it to be, you'd want a fresh start once in a while and a fresh economy. But they haven't obviously given us any details about ladders, but the assumption is that you would not get any of your current gear or any of your Paragon levels, and you would be basically starting out from nothing, like I recently did on European Hardcore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys be curious and interested in that, or would you want to keep playing in the same thing? And of course, the whole other question is, do they have special items that are only available in the ladder, or other special perks?
That's going to be the
as
key
opposed
thing.
to not. So if there's perks, you'll do it, and if not, screw it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like what it was with playing on the ladder in D2. You kind of did it, because there were a lot of things that you could only get in the ladder, so it made that experience, more
Like
worthwhile.
you mean like besides EPing?
Yes, besides EP.
There are more
type thing.
tangible things. Like
Yeah.
what were those for people who weren't around then?
You had to ask me that question. I have to go and look that up.
There were a
Rune
bunch of
words.
legendary items that only appeared in the ladder.
Yeah, there were definitely rune words, and there were actually items like I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the
bad.
ladder specific
Yep.
ones.
But there were definitely perks that you could only get in the ladder.
Hmm.
And when the ladder season ended, all the characters, it was like every 3 or 6 months, or whenever they woke up and decided to reset it again.
It,
And they would
yeah.
dump all those characters back into the general pool of characters.
And so those items would then get put into the non-ladder, community.
And the non-auction house, that didn't really matter. Of course, we don't have that now anyway, but there were special items you could only get in the ladder, and then they would dump those characters back into the general pool. And of course, we didn't have shared stashes and shared gold accounts and stuff in Diablo 2, so it wasn't quite the same thing. But
Hmm.
so do you guys envision it working that way in Diablo 3? I mean, they've given us zero details, so who knows what it'll be. But I mean, what do you want to see in a ladder, Katniss, and what would make you want to play it?
Well, I've been wanting ladders from back when it was data mined and teased out way, way, way back when. A lot of people have been saying like if they're gonna do ladders, they need to do them differently than they existed in D2, just because D3 is such a departure from D2, and so it's time for innovation. It's time to do something, better than copying just what it used to be. So I don't know. I would honestly just be happy with the same, economy reset, a brand new character, a reason to re-roll, and just kind of climbing that ladder, keeping track of, who's doing what, who's the best Crusader, who's the best Demon Hunter, whatever. And getting excited about finding those ladder. I definitely do want there to be like ladder specific items. And I do want it to be a system where it rolls over so that I don't necessarily even know if they need to roll over like the Paragon or the experience that you get. I don't know how cleanly they could do that because does it go to your hardcore characters? Does it go to your softcore characters? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, if you're playing you're playing softcore ladder.
Oh, well, right. There would be two different modes for the ladder. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, so I as long as you don't, I don't know. I don't know if they could make a ladder where like none of those things end up impacting your permanent accounts or characters because it just would seem like a waste of time. I guess you would just do it for the EP then. But yeah, I'm interested.
I guess like some of Wyatt's comments, like during some of the discussions at BlizzCon and such, made it seem as if the ladders, whatever you gained on the ladder would then, meld with your character once the ladder season had ended. So the experience that you gained in the ladder would copy over.
And if you have Paragon 600 in normal, that's going to add like 1 level to you, probably.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's not going to be anything substantial, and also it won't really matter because if you're a ladder player, you're a ladder player. You really don't care what happens to your non-ladder characters. It won't matter so much.
And every 3 months, you're in a whole new ladder, basically, or something like that.
Yeah, I would hope that they would make it a little bit longer than that. I think Diablo 2 right now is 6 months on the ladder, is what they have shortened it to, because it prior used to be like a year, if not longer.
It used to be whenever they woke up and realized they hadn't reached the ladders in 8 months.
Yeah, now
There wasn't real rigorous time keeping on that system.
yeah, nowadays they actually do have it on a 6 month schedule, and I it's like you can see from all the tweets that they've been having this week that it seems that they have, I think it was one of the class designers was talking about how every Tuesday and Thursday they're having discussions about ladders during the developer meetings. So I mean, it's something that's obviously they're putting a lot of thought and a lot of resources into talking about this, and it's like just myself, I'm thinking, well, what could they do besides how the Diablo 2 system did it, unless they're talking about, Katniss mentioned resetting the economy right now in Reaper's Souls, it'd be like, what economy? Would they make one of the benefits to playing the ladder that they turn the auction house back on? Because they did went through and they upgraded the auction house. They added commas. They put development time into the auction house when they're taking it away at the same. Is it something that they would do? Is like, well, if you want trading, you could do ladders. That'd be an interesting way of doing it.
Why do you got to go and spoil a good thing?
And you'd all be with level 1 and low level characters. You wouldn't be bringing in 5,000 marquee gems. You'd be everyone's fresh.
Because that was the original intent behind the Diablo 2 ladders, was to reset the economy because of duping and just how quickly things would snowball with high magic find. That once you got good, you could farm up ridiculous amounts of items until you found something worth using, and so they had to reset the economy somehow. and that's the only solution they came up with was ladders. So it would make for an interesting argument to potentially bring trading back if they did it like that. Though I'm sure we wouldn't have a real money auction house, so it'd probably still just be a gold auction house. There could be, they believe there's the data mined achievements and feats of strength and stuff like that for competing in ladder seasons, so that would be one thing. Or one of the other ones was in one of the developer playthroughs. I think it was Wyatt mentioned the whole thing about the kind of like challenge mode rifts, where you have a set rift that has a set map, set enemy spawns and stuff like that you could go through and compete in, and there, it would just kind of be for bragging rights to say who completed it the first, or who completed it the fastest, who got the best time with it, and maybe they might have something like that that's only accessible during the ladder, so you have some sort of game feature that can only be played if you're a ladder character. Just kind of there, because there has to be some sort of reward for it, because otherwise it's just there for people that want to start fresh without all of their previous gear, and that has some draw to it, and there'll be people that would like to play that, but otherwise for the rest of everyone else, why bother? I have 800 Paragon points and a shit ton of items.
E-peen.
Yeah.
You seem to be underestimating the E-peen here.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed my new Demon Hunter on Europe, just because I love leveling up so fast, and everything you find is an upgrade. I mean, not everything, but there's very regular upgrades. Whereas if you're cruising along with a pretty well geared character now, you don't find a lot of upgrades. Especially with the whole Loot 2.0 thing, where you're not finding anything that's for any other classes.
Right.
So it's kind of fun starting fresh, and it's like you're just that's why it's kind of fun leveling up a new character now, even though you're just kind of wanting to get to 60. Still, it's like, ooh, shiny, at level 37 you find an orange item, and it's going to be a big upgrade for 10 levels.
Yeah.
And that's the whole fun of ladders. It just resets the whole thing, and it's obviously kind of a cosmetic thing where it's the same game, but it's just eliminating everything you already had to make it a little bit harder or different, but at the same time shiny.
And I mean, we can always talk about that game that we're not supposed to talk about, like PoE. I feel like their ladder system is pretty healthy too, just in that it's not, just day one, create a character, race to the top, but you have a whole bunch of different sorts of modes and races, and they enable, different, like this race has 1 billion spawns and they're everywhere or something, and this race has you always take AoE damage. I don't know, I'm making stuff up because I don't play it, but that kind of thing.
Yeah, nobody does.
Yeah.
No,
I was going to ask you, like what do they do with the ladder system? Because I know next to nothing about PoE.
I've seen complaints about it in the comment threads about the ladders in Diablo 3 when Josh started teasing it. Is that people saying that all the ladders in PoE are basically rewarding the people who just play 12 hours a day. And of course, there were comments like, I want a system where it's a little more fair, so I can show those neckbeards. It's not just time invested. I mean, I just think that's the term neckbeards. I don't know what it means, but it makes me happy. It's such a random, bizarre sort of insult to people who play. It's like if you start going to the gym, anybody who has less muscle than you or is in worse shape than you is a wimp and lazy. Anybody with more is a steroidal freak asshole.
Yep.
So it's like only you are perfect. Anybody who has more than you or less than you, there's something wrong with them. That's kind of how human nature works.
That is exactly how human nature works.
So if somebody plays less of a game than you, they're a noob and they suck. If they play more than you, then they're a neckbeard and a loser and live in their mom's basement.
And they have no life whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. So no matter what happens, you're special. Everyone else sucks. But I think we can all agree that's true. So.
Right. But I think, well, that seems to be an uninformed opinion too, because there are like
that's what the podcast is for, dude.
Our secret's out.
Oh crap! I was just gonna say that there are like 2-hour races, so like even if you don't have like a week to spend playing the game nonstop, like quit your job style, you just play a 2-hour race one night, and it's that's a very limited amount of time. I think most people can set aside 2 hours right away to just play. So.
You can even grow neck stubble in 2 hours, which is a neck beard.
Right, that's strong.
Okay, last topic. Reaper of Souls, launch day, plans, excitement. We had a vote running for a while. What are you doing first? Are you gonna do a Crusader to start at level 1? Are you gonna zoom through Act 5? Are you gonna just try to get to 70 so you can do adventure mode? Neinball, what is your plan? It is. Okay, actually, you're going to be at the launch party with me.
Yeah, I was about to say, the first thing that I plan on doing on launch day is taking a 7-hour flight back home.
After you finish vomiting up those 17 Heinekens you drink.
Yeah, but other than that,
when you first get on, what are you going to do?
When I first get on, I am actually going to play Crusader. I'm gonna take a Crusader and start him in story mode and just play straight through the game and to unlock adventure mode from there. As just go in, have fun, experience the story all over again from the Crusader's point of view, not skip any cutscenes or anything like that, talk to everyone, get all the little bits of dialogue and such, because I kind of, they weren't available in the beta, and when I was leveling them, I played solely adventure mode, so I didn't really get to experience anything. But just so, to satiate that story aspect, because I do care about the story and the lore and the plot. And then from there, just go about normal. I might finish leveling the Crusader to a 70, or I might instantly hop back onto the Demon Hunter and get her to 70 and start farming.
Of course, you were in the beta, so you played Act 5 a million times, except for the very end of it. So you don't have quite the same urges as some people might have, and you already played a Crusader too.
Yeah.
So what is your plan, Katniss?
Well, I literally, like, it sucks and not sucks, but it's been unfortunate to spend as much time with Neinball playing this game as I have been, because we're now the same person. So I will be at the launch party too.
You say that's unfortunate?
Well, right, I'm the only special snowflake. Like, you're just a noob or a neckbeard or something. I don't know.
Or possibly both.
Yes.
So you're going to the launch party as well, Katniss?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll see you there.
We're all too insidery. We need some commoners. some like softcore players who just sit at home in their basements.
Neckbeards?
Exactly. So when you return from the launch party and you get on, what are you gonna do?
So yeah, I was talking to Nineball, and I was like, you know what? That is a good idea to take the Crusader from the very beginning, go through the campaign, because like I was saying, it might be the very last time that we do it. Because if adventure mode is as good as you guys have been selling it, and as it looks, I see no reason why I would ever want to play through the campaign again. So if this is the last shot at that, why not do it with a brand new character, brand new story? Well, brand new story, but brand new storyline based on his or her perspective, and let that be it.
We've got a lot of varied opinions here, don't we?
And you'll be in the same game together too, apparently. I'm not sure I like you guys socializing outside of the podcast. I feel like you're conspiring behind my back. Can you never talk to each other again, please?
Oh, well, I
Okay,
guess
good.
we could try.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
Wrote it down.
Yeah, you shouldn't know each other. I should keep you all hermetically sealed, like in a glass case, and just crack it for the podcast, and you can't socialize otherwise because you plot behind my back, and I feel I can't trust you anymore.
We form like opinions and things like
It's
that.
almost like you're independent humans with your own lives or something. I'm not sure I approve of that entirely. It's allowed with Xanth because he's an insider and he's informing on Blizzard for us, but otherwise I don't think I approve of that. So could you please never do it again? Thank you.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, I don't actually know what I'm going to do first. I haven't decided yet. I wasn't a big fan of the Crusader in the beta. He was not my favorite character, and he moved really, really slowly. So I'm sure I'll do one at some point, and I've also done Act 5 a million times. I was thinking I might actually just go back and level up, just do some Act 3 runs to get to 70 and then do adventure mode. But I really liked Act 5 at the end of the beta, and it was also spectacularly profitable. All those little sub-dungeons and quests, like in the towns, I was actually playing mostly Act 5 at the end of the beta because I was the most experience available playing on Tournament 1 or 2 or 3. You would go every little room you hit on those, in the burning town or what the hell's the town in Act 5? Westmarch.
Yeah.
Yes.
There were like 6 or 7 cellars every time through it. Every one of those cellars was like getting a cursed chest. You killed 20 Reapers and you get 7.8 million gold, 7.8 million experience bonus kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was getting crazy experience just doing those little miniature quests.
Huh.
All the little side quests and sub events are really, really profitable now in version 2. You just go and do whatever. You do the Jar of Souls or something. It's like 3 million experience on Torment.
Yeah.
And there's way, way, way more of those mini quests in Act 5 than any
And
other
they're
act.
short. They're
just really quick and easy.
You walk in the door and the event starts. You don't have to like go, weeding your way through the entire dungeon or down to the second level of the dungeon or anything like that. Like like the Lost Mines or some of the other events in the Highlands or anything like that. It's literally you walk in the door. It's like, go through and kill this one. Or one of my personal favorites in Westmarch is you walk in the door and it's like, oh, click on a treasure chest and we'll give you 3 million experience. That's literally it. Is just pick a chest and then here's your experience in gold and then the contents of the chest.
I'll be surprised if they don't nerf those. I mean, obviously they've done some adjustments and balancing on how much experience you get for quests. And people are, abusing Mirror Eamon and stuff, and they've made changes now, so you don't get that much experience for doing the same quests over and over again.
Yeah.
But I thought some of those were just way like you get so many cursed chests in Act 5, and especially in adventure mode. And I mean, you can get 3 or 4 cursed chests in an act easily, and every one of those is like 5, 6, 8 million experience. And some of the bonuses are really like you would if you were doing on not Torment. I mean, on Torment 1, if you were doing, say, the Butcher was your bounty, you would have to go through all of Halls of Agony level 3 and find the Butcher and kill him, and you would get, I think, 2.9 million was the experience for him. And if on the way you found a red chest that just had a random spawn of some champion, that would be like 5.8 million experience. And it's like, wait, I did this in 3 seconds, and it gave me twice the experience for this entire bounty in of itself, which takes me through this whole huge level and takes 10 minutes to do. So it seemed like some of the bounties and the values of things for the side events were more profitable than the bounties themselves in many cases.
I'm actually okay with that because there were other benefits to actually completing the bounty itself, because there were the certain legendaries you could only get from the Herodric cache after you complete all the ones for the act, and then the blood shards, as well as the actual
I thought they were maybe a little
opening
too.
up the rifts.
I thought they were maybe a little too profitable for the time required. As you said, sometimes you walk in a basement and click a chest and you get 6 million experience. But
Yeah.
I think we'll probably see some balancing to that. But obviously, we'll find out in a little over a week. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was balancing, but I mean, I don't really have any problems with it being, more rewarding in terms of experience than the bounties themselves, because the bounties have so many other rewards tied to them that it make them worthwhile doing, not just for the XP, but because of everything else that you get for it. So that's kind of like a balancing act that you'd want to do with it. Because if they made the bounties themselves so much more rewarding, at some point, you might have where I'm just going to skip the side events and go straight to the bounty, whereas now it's like they're really rewarding, so you have reasons to go through and do them. You have reasons to play through the game world. You have reasons to maybe do a little bit of extra exploring and, like West March and such, instead of heading straight to where your objective, might be. And it gets you playing the game longer, it gets you experiencing more, which is, that's, from a design perspective, that's perfect. That's amazing. And so I think in those terms, it's really well done.
If you listen carefully, you can hear the saliva dripping from Katniss's mouth as he hears this description of adventure mode.
I'm so
You
excited.
hear clink, clink. He's like, someday, 6 million experience for opening a door and clicking on a chest.
Oh,
One.
God. The promised land is coming.
You can finally hit Paragon 20 like a big boy.
Yes.
Okay, so I was gonna ask about launch stuff and party. We're all gonna be at the launch party, and we'll be socializing. So obviously the question that comes up a lot about the launch party: if you have a cranberry sangria in your hand and you see Jay Wilson, Bashiak, and Bobby Kotick all in white shirts, who do you spill it on?
Oh my God.
It's like the old analogy of if you had a gun with 2 bullets in a room with Hitler and Osama bin Laden and someone else you hate, who would you shoot twice? But it's a little bit different. So who do you spill it on, and do you kick Bobby square in the nuts? Neinball.
Man, he stumped.
Maybe you don't answer that. You haven't
Yeah.
gotten your ticket yet. Yes, no, we don't actually recommend spilling drinks on anybody, even Bashiak. Is that true?
Sure, let's go with that answer.
Okay, good. And anyway, there'll be excitement and frivolities, and will you be live twittering a constant stream of embarrassing photos from the party to people?
Absolutely.
What are your plans for the launch party? You just gonna hang out and talk to people and have fun?
Pretty much. I mean, that's what I plan on doing it, because don't really know exactly what all is going to be going on. There's going to be food, beer, and apparently a live DJ, and there's going to be some form of contest, because they said there's going to be like giveaways or something like that. And then of course just chatting with the developers and other people from the podcast and other fan sites and such.
I'm trying to avoid spilling your beer, obviously.
Yes.
I've been told this would be pretty good food, and there's going to be sort of panel things like at BlizzCon. They haven't really said much about it. Obviously, they've been keeping it kind of on the. I guess they don't want to. I've talked to Lyria about it a few times, and she's like, we don't want to make a big publicizing. We don't want to publicize it widely and put a bunch of publicity since it's invite only, and most people can't go.
Mm-hmm.
So like they don't want some huge news thing on their site saying, here's all the awesome stuff at the party you're not allowed to attend.
Right.
What fun would that be? Like you're in high school again.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody wants that. But there is actually. My stepsister lives like 5 miles from there, and I'm actually going to crash at her place that night. And she actually knows people who run the event, who actually own this Vibana place. And she said I've actually heard more stuff from her about what's going to happen at it than I have from Blizzard and stuff.
That's funny.
Because she knows the kind of stuff they're planning on. There's going to be really good food, apparently, so we're going to get to eat stuff.
Well, I hear they do. They do like weddings there and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there's.
Yeah, it's like 800 people. It's a huge place. But I mean, they haven't actually told us what they're going to be serving, except there's a live bar. There's a live bar. There's an open bar and live music and stuff, and some sort of like BlizzCon type panels. But obviously, we'll be reporting from the event and stuff. And we all get a signed Diablo 3 Reaper Souls Collector's Edition as well, which is nice.
Super cool.
Perk. E-Peen.
It always comes back to EP.
All about the EP.
Yes. Well, that's the only kind of peen some of us have, so we have to make do with what we can. So, any final thoughts, guys? I mean, we don't want to, rub everyone's nose in the fact that we're going to launch party and they're not. Actually, we do want to do that, don't we? Okay, I forgot. E-Peen.
EP.
So, coming up soon. I mean, it's going to be next, barely a week. This is Sunday night, so.
No.
Where do you live, by the way, Katniss? How long is your travel to the event?
I'm in Boston, so I'm doing a direct flight out there Saturday morning. Yeah, East.
Are you and Neinball going to share a plane, too?
Private jet, baby.
Or do you only play games together? Are you going to fly together, too? No, probably not.
We do everything together now.
Yeah, we almost ended up sharing rooms together. So.
Oh my God. Are you guys sharing with Waterfiend? He was trying to find someone to share a room with.
Yeah, I'm gonna be with Waterfiend. I'm excited.
Oh my God, are you?
I am.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he had asked me, and it's like we already had like 5 people in our room already. So.
That's what he told me. So I was like, yeah. If I can go, I'll go with you. So we're doing.
Will you let him share your razor to get his neck beard, or is that extra?
What about sharing the neck?
Ooh.
Yes, there could have been like 50 of us in the same room, but I happen to have a stepsister who lives 5 miles from the event, so.
Lucky.
But everyone else is going to be sharing them. Obviously, we'll be doing. I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, I don't think we're going to be doing a live podcast from the event, but there's so many people there that know each other. Obviously we'll have some kind of conversations or some live chat updates or something.
Yeah.
But no one will care because they're waiting for another hour to start playing the game while we're all getting drunk off our ass in LA. So.
Well, you know what's funny is they announced that they're going to do that live Twitch feed or whatever to answer questions that people tweet in, but it happens at literally the exact moment that the game goes live. So I'm literally wondering who's
going to read that?
Who is actually going to be like, oh, I can't wait, I'm so excited, and not playing?
Well, if every quest is like, why are the servers down? Then every question is, why are the servers down? Then they can all commiserate with the the Battle.net crashing. But otherwise, who cares?
There'll be 6 million people watching and waiting.
Okay, so any last thoughts? We're kind of over the time limit here, so you don't get any last thoughts. You've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloLinkGamers.com, and Reaper of Souls is coming soon. And Katniss and Neinball will be sharing a razor at BlizzCon, or an event shaving thing.
Sharing
and
everything.
You can have the same hepatitis C strain for once. That'll be nice.
One of us. One of us.
One of us.
Okay, this is going downhill fast. Okay, you've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast, and moo. What if we get like 800 people all mooing at once at the launch party? That would be pretty awesome, wouldn't it?
That'd be sick.
Would be amazing.
You can add that as a little bumper to the show.
Talk about one of us.
All right.
800 people mooing at the launch of midnight.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.